Ooh, kid on like a hoverboard. That wasn't loud. He needs to spike on the mic.
Okay, here we go. That was a lame clap. Okay, I'm gonna try it again one more time.
Nice, that was good.
Okay, cool. Sorry, Sean. Hey everyone, welcome to the 4th ever Thirsty Thursday. I'm Sam and I get to work with young adults.
And I'm Steph and I get to be Sam's wife.
Thanks for being my wife.
Yeah, you're welcome.
We are excited to share a message with you today. However, before we do, we would like to toast
our watermelon LaCroix, new flavor.
Or, as we like to say in England, watermelon LaCroix. Cheers.
Cheers.
As we have been in quarantine, I have heard this expression that we're all experiencing an enforced Sabbath right now. Maybe you've heard it too. And the more that I've thought about that, the more I'm like, I don't know if that's true. I feel like even though that some of us are doing less, it doesn't necessarily mean that we're resting more. In fact, I think some of us feel more of a restlessness. Maybe you're like me and you've been working at home and you're just tired of being in the house, you're tired of Zoom meetings.
So many Zoom meetings.
And you're just restless to be outside with other people and not 6 feet away from them. And as I have been thinking more about this restlessness, a verse came to mind from Matthew 11. Come to me, all who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you and learn from me, for I am gentle and humble in heart, and you'll find rest for your souls. For my yoke is easy and my burden is light. I feel like when we talk about this verse, we often focus on the rest aspect, which is great, but we actually miss out on how we actually experience this rest. And that's the yoke part. Do you know what a yoke is?
Please tell me.
Of course. A yoke is a working instrument that farmers use. And it's interesting to me that Jesus would offer us a working instrument when we are desiring rest. And someone who explains this really, really well, Frederick Del Bruna, he says, life is a succession of burdens. We cannot get away from them. Thus, instead of offering escape, Jesus offers equipment. Jesus gives us his yoke, which develops in us a way of carrying life that will give more rest. And I love that last part. Jesus gives us his yoke that helps us to carry life in a way that's going to give us more rest. As Christians, I've realized that we don't just get more rest because we're Christian. It's as we take on the yoke of Jesus, as we put into practice his way of carrying life, that we get to experience more rest. So, how do we lean into that? How do we lean into rest in a time of restlessness? One way is to remember.
As we were praying about this, I felt like God laid this concept of remembering on my heart. This idea that when we take a moment to remember who God is and what he's done, we can feel our burdens being lifted and we can enter into rest. Because like Sam was saying, just because certain events or activities or responsibilities may have been taken off your plate in this season, that doesn't necessarily equal more rest. I feel like actually for some of you, there may be more on your plate in this season, and then you've got the added burden of anxieties and worries about the future that I feel like this season comes with. As I look through the Old Testament, I feel like one of God's most repeated commands to the Israelites, to his people, is to remember. When they are in a tough spot, or when they don't know what to do next, or when they're feeling discouraged as they're looking at their future, God's command to them is to remember. He says, remember how I brought you out of slavery in Egypt, how I parted the Red Sea for you, how I led you with a pillar of cloud by day and a pillar of fire by night. I gave you food to eat from the sky. So why does God give us this command to remember so often? As we remember how God has been faithful, it gives us the courage to believe that he's going to be faithful again. And as we remember his faithfulness, we can find rest in who he is.
Cool. So how do we apply this to our lives this week? So as you think about remembering and resting this week, we really encourage you to do a couple things. One is to journal. Write down some thoughts about how God's been faithful. If you're not a journaler, maybe just chatting with a friend and sharing stories of God's faithfulness in your life.
Another way that you could do this is by finding a short little succinct prayer that you can pray when you find yourself feeling restless. Find a prayer, something as simple as, God, you are faithful, that you can pray in any moment throughout any day that kind of brings you back to a place of remembering who God is and remembering his faithfulness.
So that's what we bless you with this week, that you would rest in the remembrance of God's faithfulness in your life. Cheers.
Cheers.